Okay. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Hello, everyone. We are here today again with eviction specialist Donald Gray, and we're going to talk damages today. So what to do
Absolutely.
what to do after the eviction. You get that bad tenant out of there, and now the place is damaged. How do you deal with that? How do you get a damage claim going, and how to get your money, we hope. So just in case you missed our broadcast last week, Donald Gray is an eviction expert, and before becoming an eviction specialist with his specialty eviction niche company, he had a property management company for many years, managing at one point over 500 units. And he also is an investor himself. So he shares our pain, which is why he started the property management company and why he started the eviction services company, because somebody needs to be there to walk us landlords through it and to help us with this process, because trust me, it is frustrating and time consuming, and I'd rather have someone else do it. So Don, welcome. How are you today?
I am fantastic. And you?
I'm great, thanks. And yeah, why don't we just get right into it? So you get the order, and you've got your order for possession. Now what?
Well, this is where it becomes a numbers game. You get a lot of emotion involved in all this, and you're upset because it's your unit that you've put work into and is now damaged. You got to fix it, and there's more money, and things are tight, and so now we got to look at this as a numbers game as to whether it's going to be worth it. So you got 2 years to make a claim from the time you discover it. So you discover it when you take possession, and you must have done a move-in report. Move-out report isn't quite as important, but move-in is extremely important. You need to do move-out as well. There's some other, we'll cover that a little later. And if you can find a forwarding address, that's going to help you considerably. So the first thing you need to do is take some pictures of the damage and the clutter, and inside and outside. And watch when you take pictures not to take them too close. I seen what was actually a small scratch look like it was half the wall because they took it up real close. It has to be in relation to the rest of the building. Some things are hard to see and you need to do a close up, but then if you do a back up a little bit, then you get the context of it a lot better.
That's a great point, to do a close-up picture and a broader picture to show the scope and size. Another thing that I like to do is hold my pen or my truck key or something up to the damage, and that gives a really good idea. And of course, in the backtracking to the move-in report, we have to be really specific, because if there was already, let's say, a 2-inch sort of light stain on the carpet, you don't just want to write stain on the carpet. You need to write 2-inch faint stain on carpet near window, and be very specific, because otherwise you do the damage claim and there's a 4-foot purple stain on the carpet, and the tenant can argue, well, it says there was a stain on the carpet. This was there when I got there. Back to you, Don.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And in today's world of videos, you can certainly take a video moving in and moving out. You still have to do the written part, because it has to be signed by the tenant and you. So you need to have that. The video is like backup to that. And certainly if you do the video in the same way as you, the damage part, if you do the video in the same manner, the same sequence, then it's easier to compare. But when you're taking pictures, really all we need are 20 to 25 good ones. It might take you 100 to get those 20 to 25 good ones. Then once you got all that documented, then you got to clean and repair, keep all your receipts and get detail on your receipts. I've seen receipts come in from a carpenter, fixed bed baseboards. What, and it's $800. Well, he did more than baseboards. Got to write down what everything that was happening. And the more detail, the better. Cleaning of cleaned house, 12 hours. Well, what did you do? And so you need a listing. You don't need a novel, but you certainly do need a short story. For your own work, when you're doing the work yourself, certainly you make a receipt. You can get a receipt book or an invoice book at Staples. Only a couple of bucks, and there's 50 of them in there. Dual copy and make an invoice out for the number of hours. The court recognizes $25 to $35 an hour as a reasonable rate for most any kind of work. I've seen higher and I've seen people a lot less than that, but that's fine. Whatever you feel is comfortable. You can add supplies as long as you have receipts. You bought some SOS pads or whatever, and keep receipts for all that. And you got to remember to do your security deposit report as well. So some people forget that you've got to do a summary within 10 days, get to it and get it to them shortly after that, no later than a couple of days out. We got to mail it by the 10th day. And if you don't have everything done by then, that's fine. You put in estimates, and you always estimate high so that you look like a hero. You saved them some money. And then you have to have you're supposed to have everything done within 30 days. Now, I've seen damage where you just couldn't get it done in 30 days. And that's fine too, but you got to send them another one, and you put estimates on there as well. And then you put a reason why, contractors, unable to get contractors or whatever the situation is.
That's a really good point, because I have a painter that I use all the time, and I refuse to use anyone else because I know that she prices it fairly. She's got my master key, so we work with her all the time, and she does a beautiful job of paint matching. So it saves the tenant money if you've got a painter who can do a great paint match and feather it out and not have to repaint the whole place, and can paint a partial wall. So if she's unavailable, I'm going to wait for her.
Yep. Yeah, and certainly there's a difference between $100 bill and a $500 or $1,000 bill for a wall, or wall ceiling or whatever. So after everything is done, you've got it all fixed up and cleaned up, and she's ready. You take pictures again. Now use the same angles. What we want to do when we make the application is we want to have the damages on one side and the repaired on the other side so they can compare. Oh yes, the judge wants to know that the work has been done, that you're not just going to ding this tenant and then give a bad place to the next tenant. He wants to make sure the work is done. And all invoices have to be paid. You have to show that they're paid.
One thing with that though is that not all damages always have to be done, because, for example, if there's a gouge out of the flooring in the bedroom, gouge out of the LVT in the bedroom, and you decide, okay, well, it's going to be hidden under the next person's furniture anyway, we're just going to not repair it right now, but you can get an estimate from your contractor what that repair would be, and then you can deduct that rather than having to repair it. And another good example, my last tenant, there were a couple tiny nicks out of the laminate countertop. Now that countertop is still usable, it still passes health codes, but it has been damaged. But I'm not going to replace it just for a couple nicks. So I did a small deduction for those few nicks.
Yeah, I've done that too. And you need to mitigate the costs as well. I've taken there's been like burn holes in a carpet, and I've taken a piece out of the closet, and an old 3030 shell hunters would know what I'm talking about. An empty one is a perfect size. Use a hammer and you can knock out that little hole, and then you make one out of the good carpet and put a little glue or a piece of tape or something in there, and in a 10 minutes you can't tell. You rough it up a little bit, and that saves everybody money, including the tenant.
And one important point too, you can't charge for the replacement of the entire floor just for that one bit of damage. And especially if the floor is a few years old. Same with the paint, because when you go into claim at the tenancy tribunal, they're going to expect you to prorate the damages. So if the paint job is already 5 years old, chances are they're not going to let you claim the paint job at all. You can claim the wall repairs, but not the paint job. And likewise with the flooring, if the flooring is, let's say, 10 years old for carpet, you're not going to be able to claim any of that. If it's 5 years old, and the life expectancy of average carpet is approximately 10 years in tenancy tribunal eyes, so then you'd be able to claim half of that replacement cost.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. I was going to bring it up a little later.
Sorry.
No, that's good. And take pictures again. It's inside out, the same kind of pictures you took in the beginning. So if we're going to go ahead with a claim, then we need to have, that's very important evidence. So now you've got everything done. You've got all your pictures. Now you're going to sit down with a piece of paper and you're going to, well, you've already done this doing the security deposit report, but you're going to add up, any missing rent that you haven't got a claim for already, that you haven't got a judgment for already. The rent for the time repairing, if you could be eligible for that. So if it took you a month to do it, you add a month for repair time, and costs of re-rent, and of course your costs that you just for repairs, and it could be other costs. If you had a crew in and you had to buy them some meals, have receipts for that. They worked 12 hours or something and you brought some supper over, pizza or whatever. You can put that in. You don't always get it, but sometimes you do. If you don't have it there, then you have no chance. Maybe some travel. Utilities is another one. If they're responsible for utilities, and of course, when you're at the hearing, you're still a month behind. Now you've got that bill in, you can add it to this. You wouldn't have got it in the first judgment. And then from all that total, you got to deduct the security deposit. So now we need to know how much we're going after. So we got this number now, and whatever it is, we have to think about, is it enough to proceed? In my eyes, you got to look at it too, and as you mentioned before, the courts will deduct some money, most likely, and they'll reduce this or that, and so you're not going to get, your claim was $7,000, you might get $5,000, whatever. You got to prove what occurred and there was no damages before, and the age as you mentioned. And the other thing is, are we going to find the tenants? We're going to be able to find them to serve them, and each one has to be served. Sometimes they break up, so you got to try and find where both went to, or 3, or whatever number of tenants you had, and what's the chance of collection? So you got to run all that kind of through your mind, and if you got to think, is it going to be worth it? If you hire me to do this process for you, I charge $850. I know some of my competitors charge a lot more than that. If you're going to do it yourself, it's not rocket science, but it's a lot of work, and the tough part is finding them when they don't want to be found. They know you're going to go after them because they know they damaged the place. And so far, I've got everybody. I didn't catch them all right away, but I've been able to find everybody, and it's been a lot of work. And that's the thing you got to do. So if you're working or whatever, you got to think about the time that's involved in doing that, and searching and phoning and that kind of stuff.
Well,
So,
one positive thing, this is terrible, but it is a positive thing about COVID, is that with Alberta's Tenancy Tribunal, the RTDRS, we can file via email without a substitutional service order, as long as that's a tracked email that gives the proof of receipt, proof of opening.
yeah,
But the problem then is, so now you've served them, you get your claim, but the claim isn't valid until you serve the judgment
yes,
on the person. And that can't be done via email without a substitutional service order, because now you're going through Court of Queen's Bench
yeah,
instead of RTDRS. So then
yeah,
you still do need to be able to find people.
yeah. It's doable. It just takes a lot of work.
Mhm.
That's the thing. So in my mind, you got at this point, at this junction, you got to be looking at around $2,500 or more to make it worthwhile. And I mean, that's a big number, and it hurts you. Downright, it hurts you because you spent this money to get the property back up and, you know, cut the bleeding and get somebody else in there. But in reality, I mean, you don't want to spend a bunch of money and not get any return. You don't want to spend $1,000 and get 500 back. I mean, it's not business. It's emotionally, you want to kill that guy, you want to string him up, you want him to go to jail. Look what you did in my place. You're lower than the snake's belly in a wagon rod. You know, step on you. But you got to kick that emotion aside and say, okay, this is business.
Yeah.
And in business, sometimes you got to cut your losses.
Well, that's a really good point too, because it's business, and we have to consider that sometimes those damages are a cost of doing business. And as you said, look at it unemotionally and just be prepared to have to write off some of these losses.
Yeah.
It's just the way business is.
I've had damage claims come in, people are really upset, and when I got everything all down on the paper, I phone them back and say, hey, if you hire me, you're gonna waste your money because it's not gonna be worthwhile. Well, I want to get that guy anyway, and they're all emotional, and you know, I have to talk them into saving their money because it's a bad decision.
Well, and sometimes it's a good idea to file, even if you know you're not going to get your money, or even if you suspect you're never going to get your money, because once that judgment is in effect, now it shows up on the judgment searches for future landlords to see. So if everybody is doing all their due diligence on new tenant applications and they check the judgment search at the Court of Queen's Bench, that judgment is going to pop up. And also you can have it filed on the personal property registry at the registry's office, and then it pops up there as well. And there are certain things people can't do if they have a judgment registered against them. For example, I had one tenant who was an insurance adjuster, and he could not renew his license because there was a judgment registered against him.
Real estate agents as well, yeah.
Yeah, so suddenly I got a $6,000 payday.
Yeah. Party time. I love it. Yeah. And if when you file with Queen's Bench, any judgment over $1,000 automatically goes to Equifax and TransUnion. It takes about 6 weeks or so to get there, but it'll eventually get there, and it shows up if somebody pulls a credit on them, a hard credit. It doesn't always show up on the soft credit, but it certainly does on a hard credit. So now you've decided it's enough and I want to go ahead. What are you going to need? You're going to need the lease, a copy of the lease. You're going to need the tenant ledgers, all the kind of same stuff you had before. If there was any judgments within the last couple of years, make sure that they're included in there, because they got to be considered as well. You're going to need to move in and move out reports. You're going to need a security deposit report, and on your security deposit report, you're going to have all the receipts that you had that are got lots of detail on each page, and all the invoices have to be paid. Yeah, and you're going to have your pictures, and if you can put them side by side, good computer programs for that. You're going to need any correspondence that you had with the tenant regarding the move out and the damages and stuff, especially if there's something that they've admitted to.
One point about the move out inspection is that we need to, in Alberta at least, and I'm sure it's similar in other locations, we need to give the tenant 2 different opportunities to attend the inspection. And if you know that you've got a tenant who has damaged the property, but even if you don't know that yet, if you've got a tenant who you're having to evict, then you want to make sure you post a notice of inspection on the door of the property. And I also even email them a copy that says 2 clear different dates and times. So what we do is, if possession ends at noon on October 31st, then the inspections would be at noon on October 31st and at 9 a.m. on November 1st. And then we have to attend both to give that tenant the opportunity. If they do attend the inspection the first time, obviously you don't have to go the second time. But if they don't attend on the 31st, I do my report, but then I just leave it unsigned and undated, and then I show up again at the next inspection time. If they don't show up again, then you can sign off as the tenant didn't show up. And then another point with that is take a photo of that notice, post it on the door so you can prove, and also a copy of the sent email, so you can prove that you gave the tenant the opportunity and he should have known to come to the inspection.
Yeah. And I've also used emails or text messages where there was sometimes even 3 or 4 opportunities, and to try and negotiate a time, and the tenant was obviously avoiding that. And so, you have that in writing, and that the court accepts that as well. Cool. So yeah, it's good. Anything that shows that they were trying to avoid or wouldn't come or didn't show up, it was there, and they say, yes, I'm going to be there. They write you a text, yeah, I'll be there, see you. And then nobody comes. So then you write them a text back and say, I'm here waiting. And then another text later, well, I've been here half an hour already. I'm not staying any longer. If you're going to come, give me a text, and I'll meet you.
And this is really important, because if the tenant doesn't show up, now we've got this move out inspection report that is not signed by the tenant. Yeah. So the tenant is not agreeing to any of these damages to what you say is the condition of the property when they moved out. So it's very important that we establish that we gave them the opportunity, multiple opportunities, to be able to attend and verify the condition. Otherwise, your inspection could be considered invalid if it looks like you just showed up and wrote down this stuff and the tenant didn't have the opportunity to dispute it.
That's right. It's got to be fair. The judge has got to know it's been fair and that you've done everything that you can. And your move-in and move-out inspections need to have 3 places to sign. One that they agree and everything is good. One that they don't agree. So you can sign saying, I don't agree, because whatever, and there's a little space in there, they can jot something down. And the third one being that if the other party didn't show up. So then you've done it yourself, and then you got your backup as well. So you got to make sure that you move in and out inspections have that on it. It's detailed right in the Residential Tenancy Act.
And a couple points about this is for landlords to do the move out inspection is, for me, I don't want them to disagree. So when I've got a tenant there, first of all, you can bring down the heat of it by just saying, just because I write it on the report doesn't mean you're being charged for it. It's my job to report the condition of the property exactly as it is. Some things are wear and tear and you can't be charged for those. And some things are just things that need repair. And if I don't write it on the list, I won't remember to tell my handyman. So just because it's on here doesn't mean you're being charged for it. It's just a true reflection of the condition of the property. And then at the end, when I'm asking them to sign, I tell them, you sign here if you agree, and here's where you sign if you disagree. But if you disagree, let's figure it out, and we'll alter the report so that we both agree what the condition is.
Yep, I use that. Another, if I suspect that there's going to be a problem, when I had the property management company, I had pre-printed forms. I made 3 copies, and what I do is I bring a fresh one. And so there was an in row and an out row, so I bring a fresh one and I'd say, oh, I forgot your file. Let's just go. I got to make a written picture of what it looks like. So, and just like you said, just because I mark it down doesn't mean you're gonna get charged for it, but I have to write it down. Otherwise, I don't have the proper picture. And that stops a lot of the
Tension.
look, it says it was that way when you moved in. You know, why are you writing that down? Well, because it's still here. You know? But you get, as you say, cut the heat. You know, quieten things down, and you gotta. It's hard sometimes, but when you're being attacked, to remain calm, and you know, they're on edge because they want to get their security deposit back.
One big thing that I find people disagree with is the cleaning. So
Yes.
they say, well, I cleaned for 8 hours. Okay, yeah, I can see you did a great job. I can tell you cleaned. I can tell that you spent a lot of time on this. But there are still a few things that, and faucets is a big one with all the grunge around all the faucets.
Mm-hmm.
So then I just point out specifically, hey, when we gave you the place, it was sparkling clean. And now there's that little bit of grunge around there. If you were the tenant moving in, would you think that's okay? And they always say, oh, I guess not. And and I'd also point out that we're just talking here about touch-up cleaning, because I can tell you you put a lot of effort into cleaning. There's just a few touch-ups and it shouldn't be a very big bill.
And I usually give them an opportunity to do things. Like I always pull out the fridge and the stove, and I mean, all kinds of goodies there. And I pull it out, and they'd say, "Oh, I forgot." I said, "You know, I won't mark it down if you want to do it right now, and I'll just continue into this other room." And they'll do that, and because they know it's going to save them.
I was just thinking, now we're talking about tenants who are actually responsible.
Yeah,
That's not what we're here for today.
that's not what we're here for today. No.
So let's move back to the tenants who are irresponsible. They're not even coming to the inspection,
No.
and they've left a bunch of damages. And you were saying that now you've got all of your ducks in a row. You've got all of your evidence collected. Now what?
Yeah. Well, and if you can find, make sure you can find, or if you have email addresses, phone numbers, the application form it can be gold. If you've got a good one that's got names of relatives on there and friends and that kind of stuff, that can give you all kinds of leads. So now you got to take all that and apply at RTDRS. It's a separate form, and again, they do it the same fashion. You need to have your evidence in the same order that the application form is asking for it. And then when it's completed, you send it in, and again, it's $75, and you know, you send your evidence in as well. And then the hearing dates are usually about 2 months out. They give you lots of time to try and come to a deal or find the people. That's usually the big thing, trying to find them. And if you can't find them, you can get them delayed, get the hearing delayed another 30 days. They send you another form on top. And I've had to do that a couple of times. And so far, I know I'm going to get hit one of these days. So far, I've been able to find everybody. One time I found one there was a email address jotted down on about the 4th page of the lease, and we had missed it every time we had gone through everything. And my assistant said, "Hey, there's the email address." So we looked it up, and sure enough, it was an active one. And so I got a substitutional order and sent it to him. And I have a program called Banana Tag, and what it does is as soon as it arrives there, you get a message, and then when they open it, it gives you another message. It doesn't ask them if it's okay. It just sends you a message, and it's got the detail on it, the time and everything on it, and that's acceptable as good service.
Another one is getnotify.com.
Yeah, that's another good one. I haven't used that one, but I've heard about that. So now you've got the notice of hearing, and now you're trying to find the guy. or girl or couple. I use Facebook. I Googled their name off the application form. I found people through parents. I had one where I talked with the dad. The dad wouldn't give me any information, but he leaned on his son, and the son one day phoned me about 3 days before the hearing and gave me some information, and he showed up at the hearing. And actually didn't work out too bad for him. But anyway, it took a long time to find them. You can sometimes get information off their page, even if they've quit using it. You go searching through, you got to spend time. Their friends pages, I've seen pages where they got a list of their friends, and then I click on those and then try to find things. Sometimes you find a new address, or they brag about something, and that gives you a clue to where to look. And relatives.
A new job is a good place too. You do need to get a substitutional service order in order to serve them at work, I believe. Or no, actually, you can serve them personally anywhere. But if you're sending it, for instance, by registered mail, then you would need a substitutional service order. So, for example, if they move to a different city, but now you know where they work, you call up, you verify that this is where they work, and you're not going to drive 5 hours to serve documents. Your choices then are to hire a process server in that area, or you can send it via registered mail, but then you would need the substitutional service order to deliver that by registered mail to their workplace.
Yeah, registered mail doesn't work that good because a lot of people realize if they're getting a registered letter, it's serious, so they don't pick it up.
Yeah, I would agree there. And that's why I've hired process servers in other places. And it's not that expensive to hire a process server. You've already got your, now for instance, whether I'm doing it myself, which I don't want to do anymore for the claims, or you hire somebody like Dawn at Edmonton Eviction Services to handle everything for you. I mean, you're not going to drive 5 hours to serve the documents either. So you would probably hire a local process server to do that for you, right?
Absolutely. And I've been hired, I'm a process server as well. And I've been hired many times by people in other cities to, divorce papers or whatever to serve the person. As a last resort, if you can't find them, you ask for a substitutional service to place ads in in local newspapers. And then you got to have a certain amount of time, 10 days or something to
I've also heard of people getting substitutional service orders to serve on Facebook, to be able to.
I've done that actually. Yes. Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, as a message or something on the Facebook Messenger or as a comment on their page. Yeah, so there are all kinds of ways people can serve documents, but it's not obvious to most of us. So that's when hiring a process server might be the best idea, to just get it off your plate and have the professionals do it.
Yeah, well, that's our job. Whereas you're worried and can't sleep at night, and so you got to be able to sleep, or otherwise it's not worth doing. If it eats at you, then you're in trouble.
So now we've served our documents through whatever way. We've discussed several now. Any tips for being in the hearing? So let's assume that me, the landlord, I'm doing it myself. I'm in the hearing. Any tips for us there?
Yes, the important thing to remember is be organized, keep your wits about you, be methodical. From A and go to Z. Be ready for questions in between. Be factual. Take the emotion out. That can be really tough. But sometimes you got to bite your tongue. I know on my own properties, I get a little more emotional because it's mine, and I've had to bite my tongue, literally bite my tongue, just to get that little bit of a pain to say, okay, Dawn, settle down.
Yep.
So and then if you're methodical and you've got things in order, then it's going to make a bigger impression on the judge, and you're doing factual. The judge wants facts, want emotions. He doesn't care whether you're upset because they stiffed you. of course you're upset. What did it cost? And that's the bottom line. And they only got so much time. You can't drag it out. So be in order. Have all your ducks in a row. Make sure that you've thought of everything that you can think of. Talk to other people. I don't mind if I get a phone call saying, I've got this, if I got it right. And I'll talk with you and tell you what I know. That's the best thing we can do for other people is to help them. So phone me and I'll help you.
And one point you brought up last week when we were talking about getting the judgment for arrears was to never talk over top of the adjudicator or the other party. Sometimes people lie. Just deal with it. Just sit there and bite your tongue, let them lie, wait for your turn, and then you can bring out the actual facts. So while that, and this was an excellent point you made last week. So while that person is sitting there telling all these tales about why this happened or why this didn't happen or why it's not their fault or whatever they're saying, that's when you organize your thoughts and have a blank piece of paper to write down points you want to make when it's your turn, and also get your documentation out as they're sitting there telling tales. You want to be flipping to the page that proves what you're about to say.
Yeah, and then for me, I jot down questions to bring out the truth or to show them up, because often they're making a lineup on the spot, and they're not thinking of all the things. So jot down questions. I find now that we're doing it on the phone, I find that really good because I can mute. So they can't hear me, and if they're pissing me off, I can holler all I want. They're not hearing me. It gets it out.
Just double check that you're muted though, because I was on a Zoom meeting. This was I belong to a group that's international, so we've had Zoom meetings for years. But I thought I was muted, and I wasn't, and it was not good. So double, triple check that you're muted. Another point that I wanted to make was to, now I forgot. I got all hung up on, I'm thinking about what I said that day that I wasn't actually muted.
Well, I did it one time at the end of a phone call. I thought I'd hung up and I hadn't. I'm calling this guy a few names because he was stupid. And then I hear him hollering at me. Oh boy, did I do it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's get back on track.
Back to where we were, yeah. So now you've gone to court and you've got a judgment. Wonderful. It doesn't put any money in your pocket, but you're well on the road. So some people like to do all that work of chasing after. I did it. My personal first two bad tenants. I was going to do everything. I was Superman. I could do everything. And man, the things you have to go through to find, I found bank accounts, and you have to spend $25 each time. You got to get a writ, and you got to give $25 to the bank, and then the bank goes and they come back in a few minutes and say, oh, that account's been closed. So and then you find where he's working, and that's another $25, and you got all this paper you got to give them to garnish their wages, and you've got the writs, and you got everything all lined up, and you've been to the court 6 times to the filing, and then you serve them, and that's all great, and you get maybe one payment, and then you quit their job. Now you got to try and find where to go next. Especially when they're in construction, and there's a million jobs out there.
Or, well, and these days, so many people are self-employed contractors. So the person that they're working for is not their employer.
Yeah.
So it makes it really complicated. Just to quickly highlight what the process is. So you've got your order. Now you have to go to the Court of Queen's Bench, and well, actually right now the RTDRS, the Alberta Tenancy Tribunal, is filing the
For
orders
you, yeah.
on our behalf. But normally you need to go down to the courthouse, you need to file that order, then you need to go and write up a writ of enforcement and take that to, you know what, why don't you describe it?
PPR.
So let's list it exactly, what documents and where you have to go. I'll let you do
Okay.
that because I'm going to
Well,
forget something.
what I do is I take those to a collection agency fellow like that. I know that doesn't charge me unless he collects, and he does all that work for me.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, so that's what I recommend, and I recommend all that to my clients. You know, you got to call this guy, and he'll give you a discount because I send him lots of business. So you get the benefit of that.
And I assume that you're going to be providing that information to us today.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
But yeah, you got to go down. You got to do what's called a PPR search, and if there's any other debtors, and you're trying to collect anything, you got to collect for everybody. And
Oh, yes.
yeah, and that can be, you know, some of these guys have got judgments against them from all kinds of people.
So let me just clarify for anyone who doesn't know, because I've only had this happen twice, I think. So what happens is if you are the person who has the judgment, and then you are able to collect on that judgment, but there are other judgments out there, I believe you get the first $2,000.
Yeah, something like that.
And then anything else you collect is split up between all the other creditors.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of disheartening. But you know, whatever, if you're going to do it, you got to do it all the way. So
hey, but I'm happy with my $2,000. It's better than nothing.
True. And there's a whole bunch of people that are going to like you for at least 10 minutes. Because they got a, you know, 3 cents on the dollar or something.
Yeah.
Through your hard work. So that's why I suggest we use collection company, and there's lots out there. The ones that'll do it on a commission basis, I mean, it's going to cost you more, but you got a better chance of collecting through them than you do on your own.
Now, I do want to put out a word of caution there, because I did have a big judgment 4 years ago, and I did send it to a collection agent. I didn't have a personal contact like you have, so I just went with a major collection company.
Mm-hmm.
And I signed the contract, I sent it to them. They never even sent me back the signed contract. And I can't reveal which company this is, by the way, because I've got a silence order, or agreement. But so I sent back the signed contract. I never received anything back. That was it. And 4 years of absolute nothing. So I assumed that the file didn't even get processed. And then I was doing my annual Google search for people and social media search for people who I've got judgments against, and found the new employer. So I was able to do up a garnishee summons and collected a bunch of the money. And then after we settled we settled the debt for lower, because these people were still trying to get back on their feet. And I decided, okay, I've got enough. I'm okay. Let's just call it a day. And you don't owe me anything more. Because they had actually emailed to say, you know, we lost this job, but as soon as we get back on our feet for the 3rd time, we'll start paying you again. And I replied, I said, you know what? I already wrote off the debt. You don't owe me anything. Best luck, right? And
good for you. Yeah.
And they were thrilled, of course. And then about 2 weeks after that, they were trying to do something, and they were applying for a loan or something like that. And they found this this collection on their credit report. So I called the collection company to have it removed, and they wanted their share.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, they had done nothing. They claimed that they were working on it the whole time. And they said, oh yeah, well, because I said, well, I collected on it based on their new employer. And they said, well, yeah, we knew that too, but we couldn't verify the employer. We couldn't verify the employment, so we couldn't collect. Well, but I could. So why do you need your money? Anyway, so
You signed the contract. That was the bad thing.
yeah, so use caution when you are
Yes.
hiring a collection company, because even if you end up collecting the money and they have apparently done nothing, they still want their share.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the sad truth. Um, so you have to be inclined to do that work.
Mhm.
I'm not. I did it, and I'm honest. I did it, and I found it extremely frustrating. Rolling around in bed at night thinking about all this stuff, and of course it took time as well. And you know you're busy and you got other work to do, and so you got to weigh that. And I mean, if you're doing this as a business and you've got some time, go ahead. There's a lovely pamphlet called collecting your judgment, Alberta collecting your judgment in Alberta, I think.
Yep.
Get it online, and it's a wonderful thing. It takes you step by step, and then when you start going into it, then you get all the nitty gritty as you go and talk to different people, and you go to the different places you have to go to get the stuff done. And so I highly recommend that if you want to do it yourself. If you don't, I use a collection company out of Sherwood Park. It's called Case Recovery. A fellow by the name of Chris Dugan is the owner there, and he's done very well for me. And I've had other clients that have used them that have texted me or emailed me and said thanks for putting me in touch with him. My biggest one, biggest damage claim was $43,000. It was a terrible mess, and I hooked him up with the owner, and there was a whole series of things that happened, including the tenant passed away, and there was nobody to take over the assets, and the collection agency petitioned the court to become the what's it called, the trustee.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, and he did that, and you know they sold the house, and the guy got all of his money. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean he went above and beyond to get. I mean he's getting a good paycheck out of that too, but and that's what he's got to have incentive. We can't live looking after everybody else. We got to look after ourselves too.
So I just want to make a point about collection companies. When you do use them, some I've heard are only 30%. Most, I believe, are about 40% of what is collected is their share. I believe 40 is about the norm. But
Yeah, it depends on the size of the collection. The bigger
okay.
collection, the lower the percentage.
Oh, wow. Well, regardless, if you are unable to collect it yourself, then you're going to get zero. So if a collection company is able to get some money for you, then it's okay to pay them a 30 or 40% share of that money, because I'd rather have 60% of a bunch of money than 100% of nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the same with I mean, using eviction services as well. As I've said last week, there are so many landlords who should not be doing this themselves. And even though I'm pretty good at it, I don't want to do it myself anymore, because it's time consuming, it's tedious. And as I said last week, I don't go there every month. I hope I don't go there every month. There was one year where I did, but normally it's 6 months or a year or more from the last time that I was at the tenancy tribunal. So I forget all of these processes and I have to relearn it, and I make mistakes. So I don't want to do it anymore. But it is definitely possible to do it yourself. But as we were saying before, the emotions and the frustration, most people just shouldn't do it, because they go in. I've heard of people who have all the evidence, but they don't know how to present the case, and they end up losing. I think that some people go in, especially to a damage claim. I mean, it's pretty straightforward if it's a claim for rental arrears, but for a damage claim, they go into the tribunal and they know what has happened to their property. And I think they go in with the assumption that everything's going to go their way, because they know that this is true.
That's a slam
Knowing,
dunk.
knowing that it's true is not proving that it's true.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. If you can't prove it, oh, I remembered the point I was going to make before. If you go in with your, we were talking before about the prorated repairs, so especially for flooring and paint, that if you go in with it, even on your security deposit statement, you put right on it, okay, well, it cost me $10,000 to replace the flooring in the house because it was completely trashed. You don't put that on there, but $10,000 to replace the flooring, but the flooring was 5 years old, so your share is 50%. So then you put $5,000 on your statement of security deposit, and then you go into the tenancy tribunal and you've got the whole detail of it. Here's the receipt. It cost $10,000 to replace the flooring, as per the security statement, deposit statement. We are only charging $5,000 because the flooring was already 5 years old. So, and what I've found is that when you put the prorated numbers on the claim for damages, then you're in the tribunal, and I've had the adjudicator say to me, well, that's exactly how I would calculate it. It looks like you're pretty prepared and professional. And then that helps to just make the whole claim work. When
Yes.
you go in with the prorated numbers and the fair numbers, then the adjudicator sees you as a proper business person and will trust that everything is fair. And so this is assuming that the tenant has not showed up to the hearing and is not there to question or dispute their side. So yeah, if you go in with the prorated numbers and fair numbers, the adjudicator will see you as a professional and will just say, yes.
Yep. The whole works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Very well said.
All right. Oh my gosh, we've been on for almost an hour again. Any last tips for people for their damage claims?
Well, again, I got to stress that you got to look at it objectively and coldly and see where the numbers are. I've had people come to me with $500 worth of damage and they're angry, and I have to tell them, that's not worth it. It's going to cost you more to go for it than what you're going to get, and you have no guarantee of collecting. So you could just throwing good money after bad. That's the big thing. Work quickly. If you have the same workers, I have a handyman that I use for probably 90% of what I do. He's extremely good, and like your painter, if he's not available, I'm going to wait. But have those people that deal with the same ones all the time, build a rapport. It's not going to cost you anymore, and if it does, you've got a better job. In any transaction, there's only 3 parts, and one is value, another one is speed, and the third one is cost. And you can only have 2 of those 3, no matter what you do. If you want good value at a low cost, then you're going to give up the speed. So you want to have somebody that you trust, and that's going to do it on a timeline that you need, and is going to be honest with you. And so if you deal with the same guys all the time, then you get to be a preferred customer, and they look after you, and they'll do things sometimes for free just because you've kept them busy.
That's a great point. And with my painter, for example, because I know that she's awesome, and she does a fair price. We've passed the point where I need to show up and have her do an estimate for me. So I just send her in, fix it, make it pretty, and I know that I'm always going to get a fair price. So it saves me time. Another thing with actually 2 more points. First of all, pay your contractors within a couple days of them sending you the bill, because that's one of the ways that you build that relationship with them. I try to have it within 1 business day that they send me the invoice, I pay them. With the exception of if it's a big job like flooring, then I want to go and have a look and make sure that everything looks good, because flooring, there's always a couple little issues that need to be fixed. but that's different. And you try to get in within a couple days to see the repairs, and then get that bill paid right away. And when I say to them, okay, there's an issue here and here, they'll come in right away and fix it because they want to get paid right away. The other thing is to make sure that your invoices are separated out for what's chargeable to the tenant and what's not. Because remember, on our move out inspection, as I say to the tenant, I'm writing down the exact condition of the property. That doesn't mean it's necessarily chargeable. Some of it's wear and tear, and it makes a to-do list for my handyman. So it's great for me to sit down later and I just go through the needs repair section and write a to-do list for my handyman. And I make sure that I separate it out. This is chargeable and this is not. So please have two different invoices, just to make it simple for the tenant. If I need to, because if they ask for that invoice, I want to be able to send them the invoice that has that exact amount that they owe, not a full invoice with everything.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And the other thing is, you have the repair person explain why it could be a tenant issue, because there's things that could be argued that are landlord issues. But if the tenant's done something that caused that to not work or break or whatever, then the worker that's doing it, if he writes, this was caused by, and then that can be easily inferred, or could be, he could even write there, this is a tenant, this was a user problem or a user caused problem, and then that gives you proof to the adjudicator, because it's a professional telling you, not some dummy like the owner.
Hey, what are you saying?
But it's a professional. You brought in a professional to do it, and that's his opinion. And the professional's opinion it weighs more than yours as a non-professional.
Absolutely, and it's kind of like having a witness to your testimony. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been amazing. I can't believe how much we covered in an hour. And thank you.
Do you have any questions?
We didn't have any questions this time, but if people do want to, because I know that a lot of people watch it later because they're at work or whatever. So if people want to post questions in the comment box of the video, we'll make sure that we get them answered. And of course, I'll put Don's website address in the post so that you can get in touch with him if you have additional questions, or if you want to hire him. And I did have questions yesterday about somebody wanting an eviction service in Calgary, and I don't know if you have colleagues that you know that you could refer to people in other places.
Yeah, tell them to give me a call or send me a message, and I'll give them a couple of names that they can interview.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you for joining us, and yeah, that's about it. We're gonna as I say, we'll answer all the questions later if there's anything that pops up, and so we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's been a pleasure. It's been a wonderful hour.
Excellent. All right, we'll see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.